Everybody, Mike White here. How are you? Hopefully you guys have had a good time since we were last together, and I'm really looking forward to putting this this program together with you guys and having some fun with it. I don't know how many of you have used this type of a site before or what you're expecting from the process. Really what's going to happen here is it's pretty much a PowerPoint presentation and me speaking through it. I want you to understand we will have some polls in some of the other sessions. There are none in this one that you can participate in. There is a questions tab on the side of your computer where you can see you can type in questions, and if I can't get to them during the webinar itself, we will respond to you via email. I want to start this off by letting you explain what this program isn't. I said the program isn't a magic pill that's going to instantly make you a top-producing loan officer. This program isn't a quick fix. It's not going to teach you how to calculate DTI ratios or how to do a 1003, or we're certainly not going to build a life plan, and we're certainly not going to sit around a campfire singing songs and hope that deals are going to somehow appear by magic. I need you to know that this program, while it's simple, it's not easy. Now that said, what this is designed to do is to teach you all the steps that you're going to need to have a systematic approach to your business so that we can get you to the point where you're closing 5 to 7 loans a month. And we're going to do that from today, hopefully in less than a 6-month period of time, if you follow the plan. Now, I will tell you, the ones that execute do considerably better than that. So it's really up to you. We've done this enough times to know. Now, you're going to have to read and write and think, and you're going to have to keep track of what you're doing and when you're doing it. And you're going to have to learn how to make adjustments and deal with tracking your results. At the same time, over the next 10 sessions, we're going to be in a position to teach you how to build a book of business, a physical book of business that will support you so that you're not out there selling anything, that you're out there sharing, and to build a book of business of clients and a database that'll provide you with something to sell when you plan on retiring. It's not something that a lot of originators really think about. And as I said when we were together, loan originations are a lot like a series of raffles. My job is to teach you how to spend your days collecting tickets and winning prizes. Now, each one of these sessions builds upon the others. All of this is aimed at supporting some solid habits that will generate results. This is going to be work. You're going to have to show up every day, and you're going to have to commit to the process a minimum of 2 hours each day in order to have a chance. That's 2 hours a day, 2 hours of focused action designed to produce 6 figures and, yes, even 7-figure incomes if that's what you can turn it into. Now, the one thing about this is we're going to have it set up. We're going to have a password-protected area on my website that you're going to be able to go in, and you're going to be able to download all the materials that we talk about. For now, while we're getting that set up, we will have available for you via email everything that we talk about. You're going to be able to go back and have these sessions because they're all recorded. You can go back and listen to them. You can go back and replay them over and over again if you like. The speaking notes are all in print, and you can have a file that we will email you so that you have all the speaking notes so you can go back and read and highlight and do what you feel you must so that you can extrapolate every piece of information that's possible. I don't want you to be worried about taking notes. I want you taking some notes, quick references to certain things that we're speaking. But the point here is I want you to be listening to the time that we get to spend together because it's very short. Now, all of these things we've touched on in the live training. We're going to go deeper in each one of these. Maybe not, it may be deeper than some of you care to, and maybe it'll be boring to some of you who already feel that they have advanced over the piece that we're talking about. But the reality of this going forward is that in 10 sessions, you're going to come out the other side with a written plan and a schedule and a time frame and a task list, just like we talked about, so that every day you get up in the morning and you go to work, you're going to know exactly what you need to do, exactly when you're going to do it, how that work translates into the contacts, credit pulls, applications, and closed loans that you need to reach your goals. And I know this works because it's been done before, and it's been done over and over again by a wide cross-section of people in all kinds of different marketplaces. Now understand, you're going to have questions, and I fully comprehend that. And that's why we're going to give you an email address that you can email me with any questions that you have. I'll answer all the questions. If I feel we're better off spending some time together to go through something, then I will schedule a time with you that we will get on the phone and we will work through whatever the issue may be. This will be whatever it is that you want it to be. If you work hard at it, I guarantee you'll be very successful. If you just sit there and listen, I guarantee some of it will rub off and you'll make some money with it. If you don't do the homework, if you don't put honest effort into this, it's not going to work as well as if you did. And I did say homework. There's going to be homework. Sometimes you're going to feel like there's too much homework. But you're going to need to schedule time each week to get this done. And again, if you need help, you're just going to send us an email, and we're going to walk you through making sure that you can get each assignment done. If you fall behind the group, and there are some of you that may, due to illness, due to incidents, due to things at work, who knows? Again, the sessions are all recorded. You can go back and play them. I will help you with any one of the sections. You can submit your homework. You can catch up. After the 10 sessions are complete, the website will still be available to you to go back as many times as you like to listen to the material and to move forward. So please understand, this is a process. It's a 10-session process that hopefully brings you out the other side fully prepared to achieve everything you want to achieve in the mortgage business. Now, this session is called Rules of the Game, and what I want to start out with is to go through understanding that how we define ourselves in this industry and try to move forward becoming the professionals that we want to be, as opposed to the professionals that the general public thinks that we are. You know, I did a very interesting study, and I found out that the average customer who closes a mortgage loan comes in with such low expectations that the fact that if we manage to close the loan anywhere near close to the closing date, at a monthly payment anywhere near the payment that was promised, at closing costs that are reasonably close to what they were told, people will consider that to be a highly successful transaction. Well, that's not what this is. We're facing a time where we're being regulated, and most originators are just being compared to used car salesmen, sometimes, you know, even ranked worse than that. But we look at our profession right now, and the public has good reason to doubt what it is that we do. The mortgage meltdown, foreclosures, the whole subprime lending debacle, 100% financing people that had no business getting a loan in the first place, pay option ARM loans, limited no documentation loans to people with bad credit. Let's face it, you know, it's been a total nightmare over the last few years. And that's just a list of the things that have happened in the past 18 months or so. You've seen all this regulation. In the past few years, you've seen 60, 70% of the people who made a living in the mortgage business leave. Now, I understand that not the entire problem was the fault of loan originators. There's plenty of blame to go around. But the point is what we have to start doing as a profession is to separate ourselves from this belief system. we've got to create some basic principles. I've got 5 basic principles that I want you to consider. That everything we do must be built around the creation of value. Our job is basically to make where people live cheaper, to make sure that they're spending as little as they need to be for the place that they're living in. Our other basic principles here are the integrity of our information. In other words, we should be 100% truthful 100% of the time. Nothing should come out of our mouths that we know or we don't know to be 100% truthful. Have integrity with the information that you share. Under-promise and over-deliver. We have to be aware of the strategic value of the loan. That there are times that doing a refinance may not be in the best interest of the client. Maybe selling that house and buying another home is within the interest of that client. Or refinancing them out of one loan product and into another loan product just because we can, with no material change in the circumstance, is not good for not only us but not good for our business. There needs to be strategic value in doing a loan. There needs to be a plan. Because to go in and refinance somebody and quote-unquote save them $200 a month on their payment without giving them a plan on what to do with that $200 to maximize its value, all you've done is give them more money that disappears out of their day-to-day budget. We also have an ongoing management of an obligation that we need to consider. We touched upon this when we were together. The annual mortgage fitness checkup and identity theft screening serves to come to mind as one of those obligations. The average American family over their lifetime spends more than $200,000 on excessive fees, costs, fines, and penalties for improper use or ineffective use of their money and or their credit. Now think about that for a second, because the average American family, when they retire, has less than $50,000 in net savings for their retirement, excluding the equity position of their home. What would that $200,000 look like to somebody who had less than $50,000 when it came time to retirement? We need to become the credit conscience of our borrowers. We need to be the one that reminds them every year that their credit score is one of the most important things in their lives. The higher the score, the cheaper the cost of living. The higher the score, the more accessible they have to the things that they want and need. These basic principles are a big change from what a lot of people think our jobs are. Because when we take care of these 5 principles, business will continue to flow to us over and over and over again. So let me share with you a fundamental piece here, and I call it the mortgage equation, because a lot of people don't fully understand what it is that we do. And what I try to do is put into words and use a little bit of math so that we can look at something and say, that makes sense to me. It justifies the position of why I asked you to do certain things as a customer. So let me share with you the mortgage equation. Well, what do we really do? A client comes to us with a series of hopes, dreams, goals, desires, and expectations about a pending financial transaction. That's what they have. That's what the customer brings to the table. Now you add to that their overall credit and financial history, credit score, outstanding obligations, income, savings. That's what the client brings to us. And our job is to combine all of those things and provide that client with a series of options so that whatever it is that they choose, it turns out that we're not dealing with just the loan. We're helping them generate an overall financial strategy when it comes to purchasing a house or refinancing a home. Now, I'm not talking about allocating stocks and bonds, and I'm not talking about telling them what to do with the money. That's what you have other professionals for. But an overall financial strategy on what generally is the single largest investment that somebody has is critical because it's often not one and done. People often, in today's times, look at the mortgage as a vehicle. In the old days, a second mortgage or a refinance was a sign of trouble. It was almost shunned to do such a thing. Now, people don't think twice. If rates drop a quarter or a half a point, they're off to the bank to refinance because they can save themselves some money. Perception being reality. The point is, the customer doesn't necessarily always know what their best options are. That's what we do. We follow this equation and we provide value. Now, one of the things that we have to come to an agreement on, and every one of us has to understand this, and this is the outline that I spoke to you about when we were together, are the definitions of where we are. And here, again, I use suspect, prospect, applicant, and closed client. That's the process. Somebody comes to us. They start as a suspect where we have basic contact information, and we run them all the way through this process. A suspect, by definition, according to what I'm using, and again, you can have your own, use your own words if you will, but for the purposes of the 10 sessions that we're going to go through, and the descriptions I'm going to use, I want you to be aware of what I mean when I say these things, so that we are absolutely clear. Because ultimately, I want there to be no confusion. So a suspect for our purposes is any potential client or contact that you have a name, address, and phone number for. That's pretty simple. A prospect is a client or clients that have supplied you with enough information so that you can review credit and offer price, product, and program. Now, again, your level of where you're comfortable at so that you can do this is up to you. I strongly suggest that the minimum requirement for you to offer price, product, and program would be W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, and bank statements, in addition to that tri-merge credit report. It's not a legal requirement. It's not even a company requirement. I am just telling you that highly successful loan originators that do a ton of work find that it's a lot easier at the very beginning to get that client to supply all the documentation that you're requesting before you start talking about rates, points, terms, conditions, any of those things. Besides, how can we have an intelligent conversation about what those options might be without seeing at least that minimum standard? But every one of you has to come up with whatever it is you use as a guideline. Remembering this, if you generate different systems for each client, you're going to drive yourself crazy and limit the number of people you can work with. If you have the same structure and the same system for each and every client, you are open to extreme numbers. You can develop a rhythm and a pattern and a proficiency that can truly make you an expert at a very high level doing an extreme number of transactions. Now, an applicant, by my definition, is a client or clients that have agreed to the terms that you have put before them and supplied all needed documentation so that you could submit a file into processing. Again, each branch, each company has a different level of documentation and preparation required by a loan officer to turn in what they call an acceptable file into processing, or my buzzwords are processable file. I am a firm believer that every loan officer and processor and team ought to sit down and come up with a written set of agreements, checklist, and scorecard that clearly defines what we're supposed to be turning in, what we deem to be acceptable as far as processing a loan goes. Closed client is really pretty simple. It's a client or clients who have completed the process. Their loan is closed. Understand these closed clients are going to be going into your database and someday moved back to the prospect stage if you've done your job correctly. They are also the building blocks of securing new opportunities through friends and family members and coworkers that they may have. And those are the people that you're going to continue to shower upon an endless supply of value to keep you in front of their mind, to keep you etched in their brain, so that when they hear the word mortgage, when they hear the word purchase, when they hear the word refinance, that the image of your smiling face comes right to their mind. And they know exactly where to find you, how to find you, and how to connect, and how to refer you when others need you. So some of the factors that we have to start to consider, and that's what I want you thinking about in this first session is, and we've done some of this groundwork, you're going to find that this session reinforces the very beginning of what we started. But some of the things that we need to think about is, how do we generate the contact? What specific steps do we take to generate that first contact? If the contact is referred to us, do we have a method by which we track that referral and that referral partner's business? These are just questions. One of the things that becomes critical, and one of the things that doesn't get done often enough, is thanking the referral source. It's not built into the system. Whether it's a phone call, whether it's an email, whether it's a note card, doesn't much matter to me the way that you get there. What matters is that in your file flow, in your task list, in the list of things that happen, these things need to be considered. Because the more effectively you manage these topics, the more productive you're going to be in less time. We also need to understand what is it that we're doing to gather new clients or potential referral partners. What specifically do we do? What is the focus of our activities? Gathering new clients and potential referral partners can't be hoping somebody calls you. If I wanted apples, I could go to the store and go to the produce section and I could find apples. I could go into the woods and I could find an apple tree, and then I'd have to hope it was that time of the year where apples were in season. But the reality of it is, I'd have a plan. I'd know. And if it weren't the season for fresh apples and I couldn't get good-looking fresh apples and I still wanted to have apples, then I would probably have to eat an apple product like an apple pie or buy apple sauce. But at the end of the day, it doesn't just happen. There has to be a plan. So gathering new clients or potential referral partners needs to be part of your daily activities. It needs to be part of your schedule, and it needs to be thought out. The quality of your information. A lot of people get tripped up because they're afraid to ask specific questions. They're afraid to have specific requirements. They're afraid to have specific rules. And I'm here to tell you, people like rules. People like consistency. So one of the questions that I ask of everybody is they need to have in writing, what's the plan when a new contact comes to call you? What happens when they call? Is the experience the same for every client? Do we have a prepared set of actions that happen the same way each and every time? Is it in writing? Do we have a written plan as to all the information that we're supposed to collect at each stage? And in that plan, does it include collecting referral information? One of the things I tell my people is one of the first questions that you always ask a referral or a new contact is, how'd you come to call me? You'd be amazed at the number of loan officers, even people who've been around a while, who never ask that question. How did you come to call me? How are you going to know what marketing or referral systems are working for you if you don't ask the client what was the driving force behind them picking up the phone or coming to your website or stopping you in the street? If you don't have a plan, then that information is collected accidentally. And let me tell you something. This business gets very difficult if you want to do things accidentally. It becomes incredibly simple when you do things on purpose. And your information, do you have a specific follow-up system? What happens when people call you? If you speak to them, what's the protocol for your follow-up? Do you have a set number of days that you try to follow up with them? How does it happen? Does it happen? We've all heard the expression of the clients who fall between the cracks. Now, I don't want anybody to fall between the cracks. I want people who are going to do business with you. And the only reason that they don't do business with you is you've kicked them to the curb because they don't want to use your system. And that's okay. Now, I want to share with you a little bit of thought, because what happens here is there's two different pieces of when it comes to an opportunity. There's the transactional side of the loan, and there's the relational side of the loan, and both of those need to be taken care of. On the transactional side, you need to know what I do next at every time, every frame, every interval. Am I scheduling the next technical thing that has to happen? How and when do I do what I do, and when do I do it? Because if you don't know that I have to turn this file over, I have to disclose within 72 hours, I expect that file goes into processing, I expect that file gets looked at, I expect that the appraisal gets ordered and the 4506Ts get ordered and all those other things. What's the timeline? Because if we don't know when those actions take place on a predetermined timeline, then we're thinking about that file every day, and we don't need to. If I know the next thing's going to happen on that file in 3 days, and the only time I have to check that file is in 3 days. If I know I have to wait a week for the appraisal to come in, then I know that I have to check for the appraisal within a week. Checking every day to see if that appraisal came in is a waste of time if I know it's going to take a week. If it comes in early, you'll know it. So that's the transactional side. The relational side is a little bit different. How did that client come to call me? What was the source? What are the client's needs? What do they need? What are they looking for? How am I going to manage this relationship? And this is regardless of whether it's a purchase client or a referral partner. How do I manage the relationship? What do I do? If it's a referral partner, is it somebody I'm going to speak to once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, 4 times a year, once a year? If it's a potential client, how am I staying in touch with them? Every one of these relationships needs to be managed, and we need to have something. And in the course of the following sessions, we're going to have a system in place that takes care of all of these things, because we're going to be answering these questions and we're going to be working on purpose. And most importantly, on the relational side of the transaction, who are the people that this client knows? Who are the potential referrals? Where are the possible opportunities from this particular client? Who do they know? If they don't have somebody that needs to buy a house, or if they don't have somebody that needs to refinance, do they know somebody that's an outstanding plumber? Do they have a great dry cleaner? Is their mechanic the best in the city? If we don't ask the questions, if we don't know that every opportunity that's out there needs to be examined and put forward and asked, because everybody is a wealth of information. Everybody has a series of contacts. We all have a social group. Some of us were the first ones to buy our own home in our little social group. And it wasn't long after we bought our house that some of the other people in our social group bought homes. Some of us were in the middle and some of us were later. Well, I'd want to know that. If I asked that question, are you the first in your group to buy a house? Oh, no. Everybody else we know owns a house. It took us forever to get there. Well, then the great strategy for that is the strategy of surprise. Because these are the people, if they're the last ones to the party, everybody's going to be shocked that they finally figured out how to do it. And that's going to open up a series of opportunities. If they're the first in their group, then that's great. Because a lot of times the people who were the first in the group get asked who do they get to refer, who worked with them in order to get them to where they were going. But if you don't ask the question, then you don't have the information. And if you don't have the information, it becomes very difficult to manage the relationship in a way where you're generating as many opportunities as you can. We're going to talk more about that as we go forward. You're going to see all these connections unfold before you. But now I want you thinking about things that you may or may not have thought about before. So we've got to build a mortgage system. We've got to do this thing that answers the questions that we've been asking. And some of the basic questions are, do we have a system? And does the system have a mechanism that takes the client from suspect to closed client? What's the mechanism that makes that happen? Hoping you remember probably isn't a good mechanism. How do you get them from point A to point B to C, D, E, all the way through closing? Does that system include asking for referrals and referral partners? Does the way we approach this loan ensure transactional profitability? In other words, are we out there and the only way that we're getting a loan is by cutting our closing costs? We're trying to shop it against a better deal by promising that we can do something cheaper. If we don't have transactional profitability, we all go broke. You can't lose money on every deal and make it up in volume. So each transaction must be profitable. And that comes from a personal standpoint. You can't spend $5,000 marketing to generate a $2,000 commission. You have to know how your time, your effort, and your energies are being directed so that each transaction is profitable. Now, do you provide the client with all the information, education, and options that they're going to need to make an informed decision? That's what you want. People love choice. There's always more than one way, even if it's only 0 point, 1 point, and 2 point options, or getting 1 point back, or paying for some of the closing costs, 0 point and 1 point up. Hey, whatever it is, there's always options to provide. And does your system provide for constant communication and value? Are you always providing value? We talked about this. Having that monthly value-added proposition that we send to our entire database. We reach out to our Facebook friends, our friends on Twitter, our LinkedIn people, the world in general. We have to ask these questions of ourselves so that we can start to build them, because if we don't know we need them, how are you going to know how to do it? And part of the things I want to do with you is leave you with these questions to the point where the brain almost hurts. I know this sounds like an awful lot of work, but I've done this before. It all comes together, step by step and piece by piece. We're going to answer these questions together and build you a system by which you go to work every day and close 5 to 7 loans a month. Referral partners. What's our plan? How do we service each and every referral partner? If we're missing referral partners, do we have a plan to go find them? If we'd like to have some referral partners, do we have a way to identify them, track them, and bring them on board? Is all of this in writing? When you have a referral partner, do you share with them what your expectations are? Do they see on paper that you have an expectation that they're going to share with you every buyer referral, every listing, every opportunity that comes through the door? You're either going to be able to pre-approve or incubate everybody that they come in contact with, because chances are the system that you're going to have is going to be better than your referral partner system. And ultimately, have you taken the time to schedule all the follow-up processes and procedures? That's often what falls apart, is follow-up is the thing that happens when we remember to do it. It's not part of the schedule. It's not part of a predetermined plan. The beauty of this is the difference between being proactive and reactive. You will find you're going to get a lot more done and have a lot more free time as you schedule the things that you need to do and do them, as opposed to worrying about whether or not you were supposed to be doing something different. That's the beauty of having a written plan. Again, the loan process: suspect, prospect, applicant, closed client, back to prospect. If you do the things that we've talked about, this isn't about just closing the loan. This is about bringing that client back. It's about getting this person or these people to refer us again and again and again and again. And that happens with the creation of value. So we've talked about this when I was there. You all wrote these things down. We talked about goals. Some of you are relatively new, so you don't have full year's worth of information. That's okay. Then we'll work on this year. We've sat down and we figured what we were going to do. Remember, we talked about how much money we wanted to make. I shared with you the result of what you needed. This is a calculation that just refines that a little bit, that says, hey, how many days are you going to work? How many hours a day are you going to work? What's the total number of transactions between your purchases and refinances? Know what your average loan amount, your gross revenue is, your net revenue. For those of you who don't do any marketing out of your own pocket, then those will be the same number. For those of you who spend money on your business and invest in some marketing materials or some products or tools, There'll be a difference between those. Ultimately, it gets down to your value per hour. And we've talked about this when I was there. For those of you who need to make numbers and want to make numbers, we've done a little bit about this, discussing what our hourly rate should have been. And your goals need to be thought about. You're on this call. What are your goals? Would you like to do the same amount of business and just have more free time? Would you like to generate more income? Would you like to generate more income at the same time as you generate more net income? Now, generating more net income doesn't mean necessarily doing more deals. It means stop spending money on things that aren't working for you. I know some originators who have spent an awful lot of money on tools and services and systems, on things, but they'd be better off without. Do we want to do more transactions? Do we want to create more value for our clients? Do we need to generate more referral partners? Do we want to get more referrals from our current referral partners? These are the goals. Circle one, circle them all. The reality of it is, until it's documented, we can't put it on our list of things that we need to do. Because I firmly believe that you should have all this taken care of. Now the point is sources of business. If I don't know where my business is coming from, then what I'm doing is by accident. And that's not helpful to anybody. So for the next year, for 2013, whether you have it or not, who are you going to get business from? What are your actual expectations? And then realistically, how often are you going to track this information? Because ultimately, if you don't track this information, for those of you who build business plans, and that's one of the funniest things in the mortgage business, more and more people are requiring loan officers to do business plans. And loan officers come up with these beautiful business plans and put them in fancy binders and share them with their manager or their branch owner or their company. And everybody pats them on the back and they know this is great. And that's the last time anybody sees that business plan. Your business plan should look like a used comic book. It should be wrinkled. The pages should be bent over. It should be well worn. You should be using it to review your growth. You should be tracking what it is that you say you're going to do on a monthly basis. Because if I expect somebody to send me 8 loans a year, and we're in June and I only have 1, it's probably late. We should have known back in February we hadn't gotten a loan from this person yet. They've either replaced you or they forgot how to do business. So you've got to schedule it. And that's why this last question is so important. When will you schedule to do the work? Again, theoretically, we're going to answer all these questions. Practically, we're going to go through the next 9 sessions, which is going to implement every step along the way the things that we're discussing here. This is not for you to figure out by yourself. This is to get you thinking about these things and get your initial reactions. We talked about this a little bit when we were together about what the focus of each day was going to be. So I like to look at this as pillars of business. This is an example. This is not necessarily something for you guys to have to follow. This is just an example of one of my loan officers. This is their focus of the day. On Monday, they focus on for sale by owners. On Tuesday, they work on their renter campaign. On Wednesdays, they go out there and they get out in front of their realtors. On Thursday, they spend their morning with their networking group and generating contacts from those other professionals. And on Friday, they connect their merchants and their service providers with coupons to their database. Remember, we talked about the referral triangle. We talked about how we had to cover at least 1 day per week, 2 hours per day, based upon a very simple forecast of scheduling 2 hours of activity, minimum. This just gives you an idea. You can do other things on those days in addition to, but never instead of. What we're trying to avoid is the loan officer roller coaster. It's the loan officers who go out there and get 4 or 5 loans and then spend all their time closing those loans. And then when those loans get closed, they come out the other end of the tunnel and they've got absolutely nothing in their pipeline. Having a solid schedule and having a task list helps you avoid this. The worst way to do 2 loans a month is 4 loans one month and none the next, and 4 loans the following month and none the next. It's almost desperate. It's very painful. Consistency is the name of the game. We're going to help each and every one of you build a system by which we're tracking 5 to 7 loans a month, month in and month out, every month. Because we all know the pain of a deal that falls apart. We all know the pain of a deal that rolls over. It happens, even to the best of us. But it's far worse when that's the only deal that you were going to have closed in that pay period, or the only deal that was going to close that month. That can't be the way you live your life. Too much pressure, too much stress. So what I want you thinking about here that leads us into the homework assignment for the first unit is, I will be successful in 2013 if I what? Close how many units for how much money? Because the question needs to be answered over the next 9 sessions. Because my question to you is, okay, so what's the plan? We're going to build that plan together specifically. You're not all alone. This is all designed to get the result that all of us want. So we're going to go into the homework. And there is going to seem to be an awful lot of homework. And the good news is we've got an awful lot of time between the first and the second session based upon the schedule. Because between the holidays and certain corporate events, we're not getting together again until January the 16th. This will give you a great amount of time to look at the material, read the material, and start working on these things to get a good jump. But understand what I've said to you before. If you don't have it in writing, then you have nothing. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Everything that we're going to do gets documented, just like your files. Now, I want you to complete all the homework before our next call. And understand that each exercise is designed for you so that you will be creating the documentation or the written plan that you're going to need so that you can assemble all the items of your book of business. Now, what does that mean? It's an actual 3-ring binder with clear plastic page protectors that as you start creating these projects and as you start working on these questions, you will have written answers to these questions. And each time you do, you're going to take that page and print it out, put it in one of the plastic page protectors, and then put it in your book of business. Each thing that you accomplish, each task list, each outline of a schedule that you're going to do gets put in writing and gets put in the book. At the end of 10 weeks, you're going to have a fully functioning written plan. But it doesn't happen unless you do the work. So here is the long list. And again, don't worry about it. You're all going to get copies of the speaking notes. You're all going to get copies of the PowerPoint. And you're all going to have access to each one of the ebooks and each one of the articles that is out here for you so that you can create what it is that we need. And we're going to go through these. And remember, if you need help, you can just ask. I want you to download and read the ebook, Rules of the Game. I want you to read Business Plan for Mortgage Professionals ebook. I want you to read the article, 30 Days. Again, you'll have access to all of these. And once you've read them, it'll give you a good idea. We'll follow the exercises. And you're going to have to start thinking to yourself and creating the list of how you plan to provide value to your prospects. The other thing that we're going to do is talk about the key points of your client interview. When you have that interview with that client, are you asking early for that who the referral partner was? Are you collecting referral information from that person? Because the challenge is, what do you expect from that client? In those first 10 to 15 minutes you speak to them, have you made your position clear? Is documentation on its way to you? Are they filling out your application online? What is the process that you're going to use? Are they collecting information to bring it to a physical appointment with you? How do you plan on dealing with your clients? Is it in writing? Is it in the book? A simple question is, do you ever provide more than one financing option for your client? And the reality of it is, if they only qualify for one program, can you give them different options within that program? Sometimes you may have a unique situation where, based on their circumstances, there's only one way they can go and only one way they can put it together because there's only one way that they're going to qualify. And most of the time, you have to explain that to the client. There are no other options for whatever reasons. Now, when you look at the rules of the game, when you look at the business plan for the mortgage professional and you look at the 30 days, there are going to be actions that the ebooks and the articles ask you to do. So as you're going through them, I give you a little bit of help here. As you're reading, you're going to get to one of the packets of information, and it's going to be labeled on page 6 for fundamental actions. And there are going to be questions on page 6 of the 4 fundamental actions. I want you to answer those. I want to know, after you've read the information, do you have a plan for file replacement? Is there something that you're going to do in the course of the conversation from that person, suspect, prospect, applicant, closed client, that's going to allow you the opportunity to create another loan opportunity from having done that loan? I want you to answer the 5 questions on the top of page 7. I do this because it almost becomes a little bit of a scavenger hunt. I want you to go through the information. I could be more specific, but the problem is then you may not read the information going up to it, or you may not read the page 7 of one of the other pieces I've asked you to read. Because I need to know if you have a plan for the relational side of the mortgage brain that we discussed earlier in here. The questions that I asked you on building the mortgage practice need to be answered. The speaking notes, or in the ebook, there's the chart that we looked at on the screen about your hourly rate. Have you done that? I want you to create a list of each referral source that you plan to get business from. I want you to create a list of each actionable activity associated with that source of business. I want you to create a list of the number of loans that you plan on receiving from each area. And then I want you to check the math and check your numbers to see if what you project meets the goal that you've set for yourself. Because if it doesn't, you're going to need some help, and that's what I'm here for. As you do all these things, I need you to print them out, and I need you to start building your book of business so that you'll always know where to go for the answers to these questions. I can help you, but I can't help you if you don't do the work. You've got 3 weeks. This is a lot of work, but it won't take more than a couple of hours over the next 3 weeks to get a really good start on doing this. I want to thank you guys for trusting your time and your energy with me in this plan. I know that this isn't easy, and I know you have a lot of questions. I know that you want much more, much faster. But the problem is it's almost like drinking water through a fire hose. It has to be measured. You have to trust in the system, and you have to trust in the work. Now, you can put together little study groups if you like. You could sit together and do the assignments together. You can work with each other if you find that that makes it helpful. You can work by yourself if you feel that that helps you get done quicker. You can contact me, and I would be thrilled to help get you through the process. Understand the next call is going to be January 16th. That'll be next year. For you guys, the email address right now that you're going to contact me through is the Yahoo address, michaelwhite1956@yahoo.com. What I'd like you to do is make sure that you're at least familiar with my website, ImproveMyTomorrowCoaching.com. Now there you can sign up to have the blog sent to you. You can look around. You can see some of the free information. You can also feel free to link together with my LinkedIn page. LinkedIn, go to the Facebook friend me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, all available through the website. When in doubt, send me an email and ask the question. There are no stupid questions. I would rather you not waste a moment of your time trying to solve something when you feel lost. Just go to your computer, pull out your cell phone, fire off an email, and I promise I'll answer that email and get you headed in the right direction. And as I've said before, if for whatever reason I can't answer it by email, or I think it will be better to speak to you live, then I will send you back an email and tell you when I am available, and we will arrange a phone call, and I will walk you through it. I want every one of you to be successful, and you can be. So I thank you again for your time. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Remember to be with your friends and your families. Cherish the people that you get to spend time with. There'll be plenty of time for work. Trust me, there'll be plenty of work. 2013 is going to be a phenomenal year, and I look forward to spending that time with you guys so that we can make that happen. Have yourselves a great day.